Where did we leave off last week? We went through Samson last week, and Samson is supposed to be the last judge in the book of Judges, isn't it? And he ruled Israel for about 20 years. So that is not the end of the book of Judges. Then what happened to Israel after Samson? There is still about 4 chapters in the book of Judges. And these 4 chapters are the most vicious and, bloody chapters that you can find in the book of Judges. Okay, because book of Judges does not end well after Samson. It does not end well. In Judges 17, there's a guy called Micah. Micah is an Israelite, right? He's from Ephraim. And he's decided that he wanted to build or make some idols in the house to worship who? God and himself. Right? So he had made this thing called the ephod. Remember the ephod? Who originated the ephod?
Samson.
Not Samson?
No.
Gideon was the one who actually originated the ephod. I'm going to call the priest, I'm going to hire a priest who is a Levite to serve me in my house, which is not the right thing to do. So this is Micah, and finally, at the end of the day, he says that because I have all these things now in my house, God is going to make me rich. You notice that from Judges 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, it will always start with, in those days, Israel did not have a king. You notice that now? If you go just flick through the chapters, in those days, Israel had no king. So what is the writer trying to say? Is it there's going to be a king?
Because God is a king.
It wasn't a positive statement, you know.
There's nobody suitable to be a king. Everyone did what they wanted.
Correct. Thank you very much. And everybody did what they wanted or what they thought was right. Everybody did what they wanted. So there was no authority in those days. That was basically what the statement was all about. Because if you went into, I think it was Judges 17, it clarifies what May says, 17:6. Each man did what he considered to be right. So what he considered to be right would be in his opinion. As far as his opinion is concerned, he did what he figured would be right. So where is the law now? So after that, the next chapter comes, worse, the Danites. We are talking about these 3 areas here, the Danites, the Ephraimites, and the Benjamites. Okay? Then after that, the Danites stole the ephod from Micah, and they took it back home, and they started to worship as well, the ephod and the images. Okay, then worse. After that, we go into Judges 20. What happens in the Judges 20? Actually, Judges 19, there was an incident of gang rape. That's why I say it's very vicious. Judges ends very, very badly because why? There was no king in Israel. Everybody did what was right in their eyes. So there was some man who wanted to rape a guy. Sounds familiar? Sodom and Gomorrah. So this happened in Benjamin. So it happened in Benjamin, but instead of bringing the guy out to be raped, they threw out the girl. Concubine, one of the concubines. And she was gang raped the whole night. And she died at the door in the morning. So her master cut her up into 12 pieces. Ever seen such a movie before? Cut her up into 12 pieces and sent each piece to each tribe to ask for revenge. So what did they do? 11 tribes all fight against Benjamin because the evil people were from Benjamin. The one that did the gang rape was from Benjamin. So 11 tribes all came together, 400,000 of them. Benjamin only 25,000. Initially, Benjamin won the war, but finally Benjamin was almost wiped out. That is the end of the book of Judges. And at the end of the book of Judges, what is the last statement? There was no king in Israel. Everyone did what they wanted, or what they saw fit, or what they thought was right. So as you go through the journey, right, just before we go into Ruth, you can see what has happened to Israel. What happened to the law? Were they still practicing? No. Everybody did what they thought was right. From triumph ended up in this kind of tragedy. From law to no law. Correct or not? From covenant to breaking the covenant. And from blessing to become cursed. Everything was on self-interest. So this is how Judges end. Then we go to the next book. And I've always wondered why Ruth is placed right in the middle of very big, huge books. Correct or not? You have Joshua, you have Judges, and then you have Ruth, and then after that you have 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings. So it's like right smack in the middle, there's this small little book about this little woman. And of course the hopeless romantics was, wow, this is a love story. Why would God put a love story in between all this vicious violence? So that's what we're going to talk about, because I want to name it more than the love story. I know there are many sermons that are preached about it, about the love, right? About Boaz and Ruth, you know, how they fell in love and all that. But there is much more inside that story than just the love story. When we connect the Bible together, we will better understand why this book is placed where it is placed. Okay, so we're going to go into it now. Ruth chapter 1, verse 1, what does it say?
During the time of the judges, there was famine in the land.
Okay, during the time of the judges. So we know that the book of Ruth, or the story of Ruth, starts when? When did it take place? During the time of the judges. Which judge? Any guess, or anybody done any research? Some say it's during the time of Ehud, you know, the left-hander, the judge, because at that time they were fighting with the Moabites. Who wrote the book of Ruth? By the way, who wrote the book of Judges? Yeah. They say that it was Samuel. Ruth, again, Samuel. But Samuel, doesn't come until later, you know. Samuel is not born yet. It was written later. Most likely it was narrated to him, and then he saw it fit to put in the book of Ruth, which we need to know the significance of this book. Okay, now, how many of you know the story of Ruth? Yeah, not many. So in order to make it a little bit more lively, I know I have some assignments for you. You're supposed to tell the story. Never mind. I will show you the story. Can you show it? Yeah. In a short video, just to very easily. But I want the teams to actually pick up learning lessons. Some questions that you may need to ask after this, and I'm going to ask you about the chapters as well. Well, can you get that?
Ruth, a faithful woman. For 10 years, Naomi, an Israelite from Judea, had lived in the land of Moab. She had come to this land with her husband Elimelech and their 2 sons because of a famine in Judea. Not long after their arrival, Elimelech had died. Then her sons had married 2 young women of Moab, Orpah and Ruth. Not long after their marriage, Naomi's 2 sons also had died, and now she was preparing to return to Judea, because she had heard that the Lord was again giving her people plenty of food, and she wanted to be back in her homeland. Ruth and Orpah planned to go along with Naomi, for both girls loved their mother-in-law. She had always been kind to them, and had taught them to worship the true God instead of the idols of the Moabites. So the 3 of them got ready for the journey to Bethlehem. But before they had gone very far, Naomi came to a decision. Why should her daughters-in-law leave their own country? perhaps the people in Bethlehem would not welcome them, being widows and foreigners. And so Naomi spoke to them.
Please go back, both of you, to your own homes. And may the Lord be kind to you as you were to the dead and to me. And may he give each of you a good home.
No, we're going with you to your people.
Go back, my daughter. Why should you go with me? Do I have any more sons who could marry you? And even if I should marry again and have sons, would you wait for them to grow up? No. No. I'm sorry that the Lord has sent me all this trouble. Your sister-in-law is going back to her people. Go with her.
Don't ask me to leave you. Wherever you go, I want to go. And where you stay, I want to stay. Your people shall be my people. And your God, my God. I want to die where you died. And there I'll be buried. May the Lord punish me if I let anything but death come between us.
When Naomi realized how deeply Ruth loved her, she thanked God for having given her such a loyal daughter to help make up for the loss of her husband and 2 sons. So Ruth and Naomi continued on their journey. When the women came to the land of Canaan, Naomi was glad to be back in her homeland again.
This is the country which the eternal God promised to Abraham and his descendants.
It's now my country too.
Naomi had changed in the 10 years she had been away from Bethlehem. But when she came to the well outside the village, some of her old friends recognized her and greeted her warmly.
Is this really Naomi, the pleasant one? Do not call me the pleasant one. Call me Mara, the bitter one, for I have a bitter sorrow. My husband and my sons are dead. But Ruth, my son's wife, has chosen to come here with me, for she worships the God of Israel.
Naomi's friends welcomed Ruth, somewhat coldly at first, but soon she would receive a special blessing from the Lord in this country of Judea. In order to find food for herself and Naomi, Ruth went out to the barley fields. For in those days, it was the custom of Hebrew landowners to leave some stalks of grain for the poor people to gather. Now the field where Ruth gathered grain was one belonging to a man named Boaz. And when he came out to his field and saw her there, he asked his overseer about her.
Who is this young woman? She's the one who came back with Naomi from Moab. She said, please let me gather grain from the sheaves. She's been working from early morning until now.
Ruth had seen Boaz at the edge of the field and had decided who he was because of his fine clothes and the way he spoke with the overseer. Now Boaz walked over to her.
Don't go and gather grain in any other field. You may stay in this one. Stay with my women workers. When you are thirsty, go to the water jars and drink.
Why are you so kind to me, a foreigner?
I've heard of all you've done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. How you left your mother, your father, and the country where you were born, and came to a people you did not know. May the Lord reward you for what you've done. May the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for shelter, fully repay you.
You are most kind, my lord, for you have helped me, even though I'm not one of your servants.
From the moment of her meeting with Boaz, Ruth was treated with great kindness. At noon, she was invited to sit with the workers and was given all the food she wanted. And Boaz even gave orders to his workers to pull out some stalks from the bundles so that there would be plenty of barley for Ruth to gather. By the end of the day, she had gathered almost a bushel of grain, enough food for many days. That evening, when Ruth came home, she told Naomi all that had happened, how the owner of the field had been kind to her. And when Naomi heard that it was Boaz, she was very pleased.
Oh, may the Lord bless Boaz for his kindness. The man is a close relative who may help us.
Then he also said to me, you may stay near my servants until they have harvested all my grain.
It is well, my daughter.
So Naomi encouraged Ruth to go to the fields belonging to Boaz. Ruth faithfully worked in the fields every day, and every evening she brought home a good supply of grain to her mother-in-law. At the end of the harvest season, Naomi's thoughts turned to the future of her loyal, unselfish daughter-in-law.
My daughter, should I not try to find a good home for you? Is not Boaz, with whose servants you have been working, a relative? Tonight he threshes barley on the threshing floor. Wash and anoint yourself, and put on your best clothes, and go down to the threshing floor and see Boaz.
From the kindness that Boaz had shown to Ruth, Naomi knew that he respected and admired her. Now Naomi felt that the time had come for Ruth to tell him that he was a close relative. For according to the Hebrew law, the closest male relative was to take care of the widows. Following Naomi's suggestion, Ruth went to Boaz, asking him to take care of her because he was her relative. And Boaz was quick to answer her.
Have no fear. I'll do all that you ask, for everyone knows you're a good woman. It's true, I am a close relative. But there's a relative who's closer than I. If he will help you, well, let him do it. But if he isn't willing, then as the Lord lives, I will gladly do it with my whole heart.
In this way, Boaz promised Ruth that if the man who was her closest relative would not marry her, he wanted her to be his wife. Then Boaz gave Ruth a gift of grain for Naomi to show that he also intended to take care of her. And Ruth hurried home to tell Naomi all that Boaz had said. The next day, Boaz lost no time in meeting with Naomi's closer relative. And according to the custom of the day, he asked 10 elders of the city to be present at their meeting.
Naomi has come back from Moab and is selling the land that belonged to our relative Elimelech. I thought I would tell you about it and say, buy it in the presence of the elders of my people. If you want it, take it. But if you do not, then tell me, since after you, I am her closest relative.
I will buy it.
But if you buy the land from Naomi, you must also take Ruth, the Moabite woman, as your wife, so that her children may inherit the land.
No wonder the other close relative hesitated. If he married this Moabite woman and a son were born, the property would go to that son and not to his own children. So the man who was the nearest relative decided what to do.
I can't buy it for myself without hurting my own inheritance. You may have it,
Then the man took off his sandal and gave it to Boaz to show that Boaz had the right to buy the land and also to marry Ruth. In that way, the matter was legally settled. So Boaz married Ruth and also took Naomi into his home. In the course of time, a son was born to Ruth and Boaz, and it was Naomi's privilege and joy to help take care of the child.
Now God has given me another son. Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you without a son. May his name be famous in Israel. He will renew your life and bring you happiness in your old age. For he is the child of your daughter-in-law who loves you, who is better to you than 7 sons.
Ruth had indeed been as much of a help and comfort to Naomi as many sons would have been. And Ruth was richly rewarded, also in a spiritual way that only the future would reveal. For the child in her arms, named Obed, would one day have a son of his own, named Jesse, who would be the father of a great King David, the ancestor of the Messiah.
Well, that in short is the story of Ruth. Amazing, isn't it? It is also a story for mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws. Huh? Now, this is the time during the Judges era, am I right? And during the Judges era, we just read only that there was no king, there was no law. Everybody did what they felt was right. But here you have a group of people that are very faithful to God and still faithful to the law, isn't it? How many laws can you find in the story of Ruth? How many laws from the Torah? Never mind, we'll go through, huh? Okay? So now, we start with Ruth and Naomi. Naomi is from what tribe? Naomi is from Judah, Bethlehem. Am I right? There was a famine, so they went over to Moab. Ruth is from where? Moab. Who are the Moabites?
Descendants of Lot.
Descendants of Lot. They are not Israelites. So, in other words, they married out of the clan. And their 2 daughter-in-laws are non-believers. So, all the guys died for some reason or another. All the guys died. And Naomi decided to go back to Bethlehem, but Ruth chose to go with her. What do you learn from this kind of tragedy? What did you guys learn?
It's hard for me actually.
Mm.
Lesson learned here I see is the loyalty.
Mm.
Because Ruth has married the son, so in a way it's like what we're trying to say is the wife follows the husband already. But on the other hand, I kind of see that there is a plan. God has a plan to impress upon Ruth to stay back with Naomi.
In the first part of it, you can see that there is famine, then there is flood, there is tragedy, there's death, but there's bitterness as well. Naomi was quite bitter in her heart. That's why she said, "Don't call me Naomi, call me Mara." Okay, because the Lord has done this. Mara. Call me Mara. I'm angry, you know. But obviously there was some love, or a lot of love between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law in this very special case. I believe that Naomi was a very, very good mother-in-law. And she decided to follow, and she decided to also adopt the God of Israel. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die. This kind of devotion out of a tragedy is somewhat of a consolation for Mara. Then there was uncertainty because they now back to Bethlehem. So one of the stigma for that society are widows. So there was uncertainty. What do you learn from there?
Good person. He's actually he actually follows the law because like the law says that you have to look after the widows and even the foreigners and she's a widow and she's a Moabite some more. So she actually take care of this person, and it's also she found out that she is also a relative.
This issue about picking up the grain, because in those days it's all about, they are farmers, right? They are farmers. They grow grain. So in this case, I've already written down here. What law is this?
When you harvest, you don't everything
Faithfully, you leave it for the poor and the foreigners.
What do you leave?
The gleanings.
Where? The edges. That means you have a field, you don't glean everything, you don't harvest everything, you leave the sides for the poor and the foreigners. Is this a good law or not a good law? See, a lot of times people say that God's laws is very confining, very restricting. Correct? But God has done this law to actually provide for poor people and the widows. The foreigners especially, they can go and pick up from the side. But Ruth get more favor. What did Boaz do for her?
He asked the servants that she purposely leave out so that she can pick up the greens as well.
She can drink from the well, she can eat with them, and she stay around with the women so that the guys don't touch on her. Apparently she should be quite a beautiful, because Moabite are beautiful women as well. So he had to do that. How old is Boaz, do you think?
When she approached him, and then he said that, you could have gone after the younger man, the young and rich. But
so he was an old man that wasn't married.
Yeah.
Bachelor, rich bachelor. The Hebrew tradition gives him an age of about 80. 80, those age can still have children, because they live until about 100 over years old. And Ruth about half his age, about 40. That is the Hebrew tradition. So, but there was obviously a big gap. Richer, he had the fields and everything. But he was quite a smart guy. What did he do? He finds out about her, isn't it? He looks at her. I'm sure there was a little bit of attraction, the love story part of it. He finds out about her from the workers. Who is that? Who is that? Because out of all the women there, he can pick that beautiful one there.
I think it's love at first sight.
Oh, love at first sight, People can say love at first sight. He noticed this woman. He noticed this woman and he asked about her. And later part he's going to ask, then what did he do? He went to find out things about her already. Isn't it? So here we have uncertainty, yet we have provision. Provisions from the law of God that God had enacted way back in the wilderness. And there is this guy called Boaz, who was a faithful Israelite. He was a faithful Israelite. He was a lawkeeper. He was a kind man. So here from tragedy, what did they meet? They met kindness. They met kindness. At the end of the harvest, there was maybe a few months, and towards the end of the harvest already, Naomi figured out, look, Ruth is still young, am I right? So what was her strategy?
To prepare Ruth so that Boaz will notice her more and take her as his wife.
It doesn't show in the film, alright? But there is an act, isn't it? There is a specific act in the law. And what was that? Not to dress her up. Dressing up is the extra. You've got to dress up, put on perfume. What was that act? What was she supposed to do? She was supposed to go to the threshing hall, right, where Boaz would be there sleeping. And what was she supposed to do?
Uncover his feet, lie down.
Yeah.
His feet.
Uncover his feet. Just uncover his feet and lie down there.
It's a sign.
It is a sign in Israel. What was this sign?
Or you can marry me.
Redeem me. Taking refuge. I intend to take refuge in you. You can take care of me, kind of.
Yes, because there is such a thing called kinsman redeemer. Kinsman redeemer or relative redeemer. Okay, they call this Levirate law. Levirate law. Levirate law merely means husband's brother. So what does this law say? It's in Deuteronomy. So because they want to keep the marriage within the family, so if, let's say, if my husband died, then his elder brother would have to take me as the wife. And his widow must not marry outside the family. They want to maintain the name. Her husband's brother shall take her and marry her and fulfill the duty of the brother-in-law. And what was the duty? The first son she bears shall carry the name of the dead brother so that his name will not be blotted out. The first son she bears will not carry the name of the Redeemer, but will carry the name of the dead brother. In those days, very, very important is not love and romance. I want to tell you, what was the most important thing in those days? Preservation of the name and your genealogy and multiplying your clan. That means having children was most important. That's not the picture there. The first guy, he decided not to buy the land, but Boaz was very smart. Boaz went to propose to him, first of all, to buy the land. Remember? Not to marry, to buy the land. Then after that it says, oh, buy one, free one. Am I right? Buy one, free one, what? You buy the land, you get the girl. Did he want?
No.
Boaz already did his research already. Correct or not? That night when Ruth came to him, suddenly he got scared in the middle of the night. Hey, why is she? But say scared only lah, but very happy. She said, I'm gonna, but you know, if there is a closer relative. Do you think he did his research? Already. That's why he never made the first move for 3 months. Because he did his research and says, hey, there's a closer relative. So, but now he says, never mind, I'm going to go to the elders. So that's also another practice in the sense that you must get the counsel. And they'll be like the witnesses. So after that, he decided that, okay, now that this guy don't want, I'm going to marry Ruth. Finally, what happened? That's not the end of the story. It says that because of this union, who is going to be born? Obed. And then after that, Jesse. And then after that, David. What was God's plan at the end of the day? You know, we look very myopically. We say, oh, God has a plan for Ruth, and God has a plan for Boaz, and God has a plan for Naomi. But I want to tell you something. God has His own plan. Like I told you last week, our plans are very small compared to what's God's greater purpose. But what was God's greater plan?
Jesus must come from the good line, Judah, lion of Judah.
Good line or bad line? I tell you, you have to clarify that line good, because whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's not a perfect line. Am I right? What happened? Here you have the Moabites with his Ruth comes from where? Moab and Ammon, who are who? Lot's who? Who bought these two races? Lot's daughters, who committed incest with the father. Is it good line or not good line? Which birthed the Moabites, birthed the Ammonites, and that is where Ruth comes from. Here, Judah and Tamar is who? Father-in-law and daughter-in-law, supposedly to be a prostitute. And birth Perez, Hezron, Ram, Aminadab, Nahshon, Salmon. If you say it's good line, it's not a good line. But God has to work with the imperfect. Because here, at the end of the day, Lot's wife died. Correct or not? Why? Because she looked back to Sodom and Gomorrah. Here, Judah's wife, Judah had how many sons? Three sons. What happened? Tamar's husband died because he was evil. And then the second brother refused to impregnate her. Got killed. The third one? Too young, and also Judah said, no. Anybody have the association with this woman will die? So no, but at the end he was the one. But of course he did it unknowingly, it was a deceit. But anyway, birth here comes down. Now we have the lineage of King David. Remember just now, there was no king in Israel. Everybody did what they felt was right. So God already in the plan, look, I will come with a king in the near future. I will come to with a king, and of course eventually the ultimate purpose will be the birth of Jesus Christ. The birth of Jesus Christ. So here we have a group of people, even in the era of Judges, that continue to keep the law. That continue to keep the covenant. Boaz, right? Boaz did that. Naomi did that. Ruth did that. There was blessing that came out of it, of the kindness. So was it God's plan for Boaz or God's plan for Ruth? Tell me. Was it Boaz fitting into Ruth's plan or Ruth fitting into Boaz's plan?
God's plan.
I know it's God's plan. But God's plan was what? It's for Boaz? Actually. Why not Ruth? It's Boaz. Because Ruth is supposed to be the one that will fit into the plan. Because this is the line. This is the line. Right? This is Moabite. But God can use anybody to fit His plan. Right? God can use a foreigner. God can use a widow to fit into His plan. And His plan was that the lion will come from Judah. So that's why the book of Ruth is right in the center. You understand now or not? Why God has made it? Of course, the canonization was done much later, but that is a reason for Ruth to be a bridge between evil, hopefully into redemption. Hopefully, yeah. Of course, we know that later part is also ends up into tragedy and then ended up into exile. But you can see how God tries His best to use imperfect people for His perfect plan. Are we imperfect people or not?
Yes.
We are imperfect people, perfected into His plan. Remember how what in the Hebrews was saying that Samson and all will not be made perfect until we are made perfect. Now the perfection is not, I just want to clarify, it's not perfect on earth morality, it's in heaven. That means to say, if we don't run the race and reach heaven, when Jesus comes, if Jesus doesn't come, Samson and Gideon and Barak and all that will still be lying in the grave. So we have to keep running the race. Okay? Next week we are already going into the kings already. Okay? And it will start with Samuel, Prophet Samuel, and most likely King Saul first. Then King David, and then after that, King Solomon.